Motorola's Droid line is what introduced many of us to Android, and it's still here. This year Verizon and Motorola have brought us the latest and greatest Droid to date, the Droid Turbo. On paper, this is potentially one of the best phones of the year, and that's basically how Verizon is advertising it. With power, performance, and a battery advertised for 2 full days of use, can the Turbo live up to its image? I'm Ben with itechtriad, and this is our video review of the Droid Turbo. First, let's talk about the hardware. The Droid Turbo is by no means a small phone, but that really doesn't matter all that much. It still feels great in the hand, and I will take a thick, chunky phone with a big battery any day over something which sacrifices how long you can use it just to get a thin design. You'll have 3 choices of the design for your Droid Turbo: red or black metallized glass, which provides a soft touch feel, or the more rugged ballistic nylon variant. While my unit was a black metallized glass unit, I would say you won't be going wrong with any variant except maybe the red. Sure, it'll look good at first, but come back to me once you've gotten about halfway through that 2-year contract. Going around the device, you have a 21 megapixel camera on the back, which we'll talk about more in a minute, power and volume buttons on the right side, a front-facing speaker, capacitive buttons right below that 5.2-inch Quad HD display. Now, if I need to make any gripes about this phone, they're nearly all around the buttons. The power button and the volume rocker both give mushy feedback with no satisfying click at all. Meanwhile, the buttons sit below the display in their stock Android KitKat form. Sure, that's not all that much of a bad thing, but I would have preferred on-screen buttons, especially since the design of the buttons is changing in Android Lollipop, which the Turbo is guaranteed to receive sometime soon. Moving on, let's take a quick look at the display. Now we're looking at a 5.2-inch Quad HD AMOLED display on the Turbo. That comes in at about 565 pixels per inch. Unfortunately, since this is a smaller display, you won't really benefit from all those pixels. Sure, you get a little more sharpness when you're viewing 2K content. For the most part though, I really didn't enjoy this display any more than I did on the Moto X or any other 1080p phone of the same size. On the bright side, the display gets plenty bright for outdoor use and just dim enough for solid nighttime use. At extreme angles, colors are way off, but that's something you really don't need to worry about unless you want to use your phone sideways. Now getting back to the camera, as I mentioned earlier, the Turbo is packing a 21 megapixel camera on the back. To keep it short, this is really the best camera sensor Motorola has put in a phone in recent times. It's not just because of the added megapixels, this is just a good sensor. Is it the best? Certainly not. However, if you want a Motorola phone and the camera is your biggest focus, this is by far your best bet. Next up, let's talk a little bit about the software. At the time of recording, the Droid Turbo is running Android 4.4.4 KitKat with a guaranteed update to Android Lollipop right around the corner. Now, since this is a Verizon device, there's plenty of their bloatware right out of the box, but honestly, it could be a lot worse. You're still looking at a near stock build of Android with updates promised in the future. Features Motorola added are basically the same as we've seen on the Moto X. Moto Voice, Moto Display, Moto Assist, and more make their way over, and they work just as well on the Turbo's hardware. Okay, Turbo, what's the weather like? Now, the last thing we really need to talk about is the battery. The Droid Turbo skips nothing here and is packing an absolutely massive 3,900 mAh battery inside. Motorola and Verizon both advertise 48 hours of use from this phone on a single charge, but that's simply not true. On moderate use, I'll go to bed with around 45% of my battery left, and on a heavier day, the phone might be around 20 or 30%. Still, this phone has a battery that will blow you away, just not if you pay attention to the advertising. The only time I ever killed it in a single day was when the screen was on for a few hours, no breaks at all. Now, is this the road warrior that Verizon and Motorola say it is? Not really, but it will without a doubt get even the heaviest user through a full day. To give another plus to this, Motorola has built Qi wireless charging, which gives you a far more convenient way to charge, and you don't have to buy a separate back. And they even include a turbocharger in the box, which promises much faster charging speeds. Now, many have called the Droid Turbo the phone that the Moto X should have been, and they aren't that far off. This phone is an absolute beast with a 21 megapixel camera, the Snapdragon 805, 3 gigs of RAM, and the Quad HD display. It's certainly a powerhouse and a half. That all comes in the rugged Droid body made from either metallized glass or ballistic nylon. The phone certainly won't win any style awards, but that's okay. It's not really what it's meant for. It's meant for pure capability, raw power, and to me, that's a pretty good thing. The Droid Turbo is exclusive to Verizon here in the United States and starts at $199 with a 2-year contract and comes with either 32 or 64 gigabytes of storage. Personally, I think this is one of the best phones you can get right now on Verizon Wireless if you need a contract. Are you going to pick it up? Let us know in the comments below, and also be sure to leave any questions you may have about the Droid Turbo. While you're down there, be sure to check out our written review of the Turbo for further information about the phone, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content just like this in the near future. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and share it with your friends. Thanks as always for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Oh my god.